Have you ever thought about what life would be like if we looked at things with a different perspective? Whenever we look through the same lens, it can get kind of daunting. It's repetitive, it's tedious. It's really difficult to understand the perspectives of others whenever we're only looking through our own eyes. So, I feel like now I'm at this point of my life where, yeah, it's like you can look at me with your eyes, but you're also looking at me through their eyes. Whenever we speak for a demographic or a group or an organization, we need to make sure that we are identifying ourselves in a way that represents the values and core beliefs of whatever entity that is. So, whenever we speak about Christianity, we speak about something that formed from very in a sense, controversial history and adapted into something that was actually never intended. Jesus opposed the church. Jesus was talking about living a way of life as opposed to a narrow path of living. And have you ever thought about how Old Testament God versus New Testament God seem to be two different people entirely? Well, I feel like the way the text has been written over history, there's been some loss within that message. The reason why there are parallels between Old and New Testament is because it's taking from what was ancestrally, generationally learned through their education to go into their present. And then the most recent texts that were written and then, of course, first published and available for a mass group to read, other than that of going to church or whatever temple that was of holy worship. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if we really look back into time and we want to see how we got to this point within our own human existence and where religion and everything around it is today, we simply need to look back at a certain time period because the parallel between eras and the generations that have come before us, they tell a very similar way of teaching. And sometimes I have to pause and ponder, okay, I went off on a tangent, or fibromyalgia brain fogged my flow of thought. So now I have to think about how to tie it all back together. Uh, I'm just amused with all of the ever present because there's a purpose. It's not just coincidence, and there's definitely something to be said for the timing within life. But in order to achieve that, we have to be open. We can't be closed off from one another. And if something doesn't seem right or questions the foundations of our very belief system, then perhaps that is time for us to actually have reflection and think about that. And what I was trying to say earlier as far as the eyes looking at me, there's this particular um, highlight from the preview of the Wicked Part 2 movie that's about to be released, or I think it's like near Thanksgiving that it's going to come out. But anyway, there was this line, so, look at me. And it's like, I am not with your eyes, with theirs. That line right there, that's exactly what I've been trying to talk about for years and for, well, actually, as long as I've been talking about spirituality or religion or the beginning of time and all this aspects of everything. For us to actually compassionately be there for one another, we do need to look at each other, not with our own eyes, but with the eyes of others. To be able to compassionately have that empathy and understanding and acknowledgement that there have been washed versions of history to reflect what they want you to remember. The different rulers in the past, the different people who call themselves prophets. There are people who are legitimately leading a way, and there are people who are chosen. It is up to those individuals to hold that with the utmost responsibility and maintain the integrity of the teachings, whatever it is. And if it has to do with something business or political, not necessarily religious, uh, but it is applicable to everything, by the way, then we bear the responsibility to leave our own personal bias at home and to carry forward with us the knowledge that we individually do not have all the answers. However, we individually can find what works best for us. And as far as the teachings of old go and the teachings of new, well, we have to be able to be open enough and humble ourselves within that inner gratitude, that living water that is referenced within religious texts. To live within the living water is to basically live genuinely uh, as you are and as you have meant to be within what spiritual enlightenment can happen whenever our eyes and our hearts are open enough in order to receive. But we have to be able to be willing to take that step to provide invitation. So the next time you walk into your place of worship, I I invite you to do something that might make you uncomfortable. Talk to the person that you've never spoken to. Um, Sit in a row that you've never thought to go. Go sit in the first row. Let's see how many people can be in the first row, and then the second, and the third, and the fourth. And how about as we fill our house of worship, we sit together instead of pulling ourselves apart from one another. Yes, I know, fall germs, illnesses, other things. Obviously, we can be responsible and courteous to one another and know when to virtually watch our worship service or whatever it is of our congregation. So if you had a meeting in person, it's all right. You know what? We can still do this. We need to virtually clock in if you feel like you have the energy and the means to do so. What amazing strength it would be if we actually take the momentum of the season, that of celebration within the birth of a person who was an amazing, remarkable individual who did change a lot of things within the world. And you know what? So did the Buddha. So did Gandhi. So did Mother Teresa. So did Martin Luther King. And so does many people now and in the future who've, I don't know, have they been foretold? I mean, that is the one thing within religious texts. And there was always this hope and kind of like a foreseen prophetic vision of, these people, these vessels, these chosen. They were placed within the lifetimes of generations for whatever purpose, whether it was for scientific, herbal medicine, technological, revolutionary wisdom placed upon them and their capability. Maybe it wasn't just a naturally led gift or talent, but something that was just like what feels like supernaturally placed upon them, Holy Spirit led gifts. We all have the kingdom of heaven within ourselves, and we all have the ability to access that inner Christ in us, as many talk about. And these words are not that of fiction, but they are that of what has actually been written. Whenever the Bible was collectively put together, there were some aspects that were all discluded. And the books of the Bible collectively, not all of them were pushed aside. The Gnostic texts, that of what they say are just I don't necessarily want to get into all of the nitty-gritty because I feel like it loses focus from what is. However, I guess where I'll place the end of this is since the dawn of recording of history within more modern texts, within that of religious leaders and organized religion, not just spirituality or a way of life and living. I feel as though that is the dawn of falsehoods. That's where everything began, right? So if you're gonna break a system that's been in place, you have to place doubt early on, fear early on, distrust early on, pointed arrows early on, villainize early on, so that in the future, hopefully, you can maintain that sense of balance. People, humankind, have written these records. They are not written from divine, but from those of us who are not able to say that we are from the divine. And yet, are we though? Truly, I say to thee, are we not one with God and God within us? And whenever Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, within that story that of old, what God was there? For one was saying, this is the tree of wisdom. Why would God destroy thee and cast thou out of this place of bliss, that of rather lived ignorance rather than that of knowledge? We pride ourselves as a human people for that of education, and we talk down to one another whenever we as a people, and I'm overgeneralizing here, so this isn't necessarily applicable to you. However, there is a point to it. Why on earth do we rise ourselves up as a people to a greater than position of those who have a lesser education or have been persuaded by those who would rather lead us into falsehoods rather than guide us towards salvation? That type of concept and generalized way of thinking. It's not necessarily that we are unwilling, it's just that we have fear of what if we have been betrayed, and the foundational knowledge that we have had our entire life was actually wrong because our ancestors and the generations before us took liberties upon themselves whenever they wrote down the texts. What would happen if collectively a new book was written? I mean, within the book of love, it's just a very different place. Within the book of falsehoods, the story remains the same. In order for us to grow as a people, we need to understand the background, the history. We need to enrich each other and build each other up. That is what Jesus was teaching. Born of divine or otherwise, he was a remarkably led person who supported all people, cared for people, and given whatever works that it was, divine, miracle, or merely coincidence, wink, tongue in cheek, nuanced, side joke, perhaps. Uh, Things within our history are there to teach us and help guide us. And in order for us to learn, we have to actually be able to speak on and talk about it and discuss the things that, yes, may put us out of our element and out of our area of comfort. To put discomfort within our ever present is to actually acknowledge that things are not necessarily exactly as they have been. That's because they're supposed to change. There are many people who feel like the Old Testament and the New Testament, yes, are for two different gods. And leading back to Old Testament within Genesis, what if that God was that of falsehoods? Do not eat from this tree of knowledge. This is not for you. How similar is that to that of, say, the current times of now? Oh, well, don't believe them. They're wrong. Believe in me. Well, it doesn't matter if all those different people have stepped forward and they have laid claim. I have more power and position. I am right. They are wrong. Okay, I'll take that, and then I'll throw this back at you. For instance, what if the God of old was a false God or a God born from? After all, you will have no other gods before me is the acknowledgement that more than just one exists. There's a whole universe out there. How would the God of all, who was the creator and the creation, be in all places? There is a split divide. We are all from stardust, so therefore we are all one with God. Whenever the serpent came and spoke about the knowledge that was being kept away, that may have very well have been the initial creation, the God, the 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 foundational core of the rooted start of the entire universe, basically saying to us, this God is not your God. If they're wanting to punish you for wisdom, if they're wanting to take away from you for the ability to advance and become like a Christ, for the kingdom of heaven is within you, for you to become a Christ. So, of course, whenever they were caught eating from this tree, and they knew, oh, hey, got no clothing on. Oh, look at that. Hmm, interesting. That was their ability to understand and have awareness over what was happening. They knew then, and they had that acknowledgement and awareness. Well, how is that any different from a political viewed system to where historically one side has tried to put blame towards the other? And now that blame has turned into things being called a hoax or radical or woke, liberal. It's a part of an agenda. It's a cover up. It's rigged system. It's everything and all of the above. What if we took a moment to say, for instance, that that is the book of falsehoods? That is the foundationally put book of falsehoods that continues within the ever present. What happens whenever we reflect within religious Christianity, the born again Judaism that has been written, that talks about this very critically destructive God that tests our moral integrity? And instead of that of growth, we get punished for knowledge. For there is only one way to salvation, and that is through the belief of someone who died for you, who was fighting against the system, who questioned religious leaders and their intentions upon the government at the time. The hypocrisy within Christianity and the foundational lines is daunting and yet so incredibly just, it's exhaustingly frustrating because we have to be able to be open enough to be able to hear one another. For us to be able to hear one another, we have to be able to speak. And in order to speak, we need to be able to listen. For that is the beginning of how we reconnect and how we allow those moments of enlightenment to come within our lives. A just and admirable and inspirational life led within the book of love isn't necessarily misguided. It's like the knowledge of, you know what, we can't critically be so hard on ourselves for that of the past, the things that we did not know, because we did what we could, what was best within the given information at the time. What matters now is the acknowledgement, the realization that the past does not always hold truth. What it does is hold wisdom, and we can use that wisdom to go forward. So, how do we go forward? Knowing that there are lines within. They are scattered with truth, but also with falsehoods. There are written and condensed beliefs that pull us to go towards a more narrow path as opposed to that of a state of enlightenment. When Jesus went on his journey and he was met by temptations, just like the Buddha, Gautama Siddhartha, whenever he was living within this kingdom of wealth, born into royalty. But then he saw the way the world really worked, and it was that of suffering. Both of these individuals went out within the world. Emmanuel, Yeshua, am I pronouncing that correctly? I feel like I am. All right, nuanced tongue in cheek. All right, getting back to the point. When they went on their journey, that is like the path of each of one of us, that we have the capability to go on that same path. And whenever we get to that point in life where we're just like, you know what, just I'm not going to care anymore. I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to do things for me, and I'm going to do what brings me joy. And I'm going to fill my cup. And then when my cup overfloweth, I will be there as I can for other people. So, what do we do with that? We all have the capability to reach that pivotal moment within our lives. We have to be open enough to be able to welcome that change. It feels really good to talk about this. And even if it's just for myself, because not all of my recordings and writings make it to a shared format, I realize that within myself, there is no need to apologize or explain. There is only time to just be. Sitting under a tree and meditating for a long time until finally, like searching and wandering through the desert, enlightenment was attained. Nirvana, the living water, the kingdom of heaven on earth. That happened. The Buddha was born. The person that would then be known to be Jesus Christ was there. And those were the pivotal moments within history that allowed us to be able to see God and know that the kingdom is within us, that heaven is within us, that the enlightenment of nirvana and the lifetimes and generations of falsehoods, they have been there as a learned lesson, but each of us have to reach that moment. We can't just rely on the revelations. It's interesting that that book exists, honestly. And the more I read, the more I'm fascinated by all of it. I can see all of the parallels, how it connects, why it connects, and how we go forward. So, anybody who talks to me or hears my voice as I shiver within my little fibro flare here, as I cannot study my camera. Whenever Jesus said, "Follow me," and the Buddha may have too, whenever they spoke about these most amazing and peaceful things, and it's just this generalized awareness about life, this actual lived true compassion, this gratitude and humbled way of life and living, that truly is the kingdom of heaven. To to be able to not worry so much about all of the little flourishes within life and to just lay them down and follow. You don't have to like literally lay everything down. Materialistically, we are a society that's generationally built upon, oh gosh, consumerism. But that's also within our history, isn't it? It's kind of like our ancestral, oh gosh, DNA, our roots. I'm trying to think of another word to go with it. However, I feel like I am lost. And this is a good time for us to reflect and come to a close. For what knowledge can we bring to one another, but that of peace and love and gratitude? Whenever we talk about these are the greatest things, and that is love, that is there for a reason. The God I know, the ever present, the Almighty of all, the great I am, the Emmanuel, Yeshua. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. But whenever we question ourselves, that it's not that of disbelief or lack of focus or dedication or otherwise. It's just, I guess, our perpetually lived system to try to be politically correct in all elements. And while my pronunciation and my inflection might not be always placed upon the best moments, I feel like I feel like with experience I'm learning and I'm having my own path within growth. And like the many different places that I have been within the past that have brought me here's this pivotal moment, I have to honestly smile because from ear to ear, what great lessons that taught me. And even through the hardest moments within my life, within the tears of heartbreak and letting go and moving forward, I've learned how to become the person I am today. And I love the peace that this brings. I mean, it's such an amazing feeling. Now, if I can just heal from within, I definitely can't say I can do any magic tricks or anything that's just above and beyond. So the moment I can do miraculous works that do not feel of this realm, I will be the first, perhaps, to not tell you. For what better things can be than that of what is not seen, but trusted from with what you hear. Faith and trust is knowing that the wind is ever present around us and the breeze is there, even if we cannot see it. It is the warmth on our skin when the sun rises and it is a new day. And it is the beautiful twilight of the stars in the sky that we look around us, where we can peer into the vastness of everything that ever was and will be. It is the alpha and omega of the infinity. We don't know when the ending is, but we can certainly live every day like it could be our last. There's no better time to go forward than right now. So I welcome you to do so and journey on that with me. There's some things that I left unfinished within my morning word sandwich of so much. However, I feel like if I can collectively put this together to put it out there today, that I have done one great deed, and that is to help share what I know and how I feel about things. And I am just one person and I cannot speak for all. However, I can share my wisdom, and I do have the receipts. And they're in the exact same places that you can look and find them. To know how to translate the word, it's like finding that coded message, the riddle, solving it. There is the answer, and then there is the answer. What answers will you find today? Are you willing to be on a path of self discovery with me? I wish you all the best. Let's pray. Dear God, our universal creator, the great I am, Yeshua, our Emmanuel, thou who have been there before us, who have been and will be, that we look up to and aspire to become, who we are inspired to be. Thank you for guiding us within our lives. We have so much gratitude for knowing that we have this one life to live within the lifetimes of ever present. Our past may carry great weight. However, we can find solace in the fact that we are not alone. Your presence is almost to a sense suffocating. It is around us at all times. We know that there's great suffering within the world, and in order to heal and mend hearts, we need to find a collective way to understand what has been so we can build upon what will be. We are not talking about erasing for what has been said, but we are preparing for what has been foretold. And then that is a future of connection and joy and love. For love does not boast, love does not have forced blame, love does not gaslight or betray. Love is ever present and always around us. It is the warmth of the sun on our skin, and it is the twilight within the stars that shines around us when we are able to pause long enough to see what has gone unseen. May we have a collected ability to open our hearts and open our eyes to that of what can be. We don't need a fence to separate ourselves from our neighbors. We simply need to open the door. For you are knocking, and I let you in because I wanted to live free and with knowledge and peace and feel that living water, the ever present love that lives within. Thank you. We thank you so much for you to be able to teach us and give us this joy and this amazing sense of humanity. It reminds us every single day as we get older. As we move into a season of thanks and celebration within birthdays and joyful remembrances when people pass forward into the beyond. And may we learn how to enjoy this moment and step forward within the kingdom of now and the presence of peace and love. In your name and in all names, we pray and give thanks.